Without further ado, welcome to the July edition of the Sustainable Kidney Care Network webinar series hosted by the Centre for Sustainable Healthcare.
What is this?
It's better. This takes place the fourth Thursday of every month from 2 till 2:50. Last month we had Dr. Ayushi Gupta, who is renal speciality registrar at Hammersmith Hospital, present on renal quality improvement, changing culture, cutting carbon. For those people who missed that one, they do get uploaded to our networks and to our YouTube, and I've just posted it there. It's a fantastic presentation, so I encourage everybody to go and watch that. And remember that you can catch up on all missed webinars on our YouTube and also on our network. So if you haven't signed up to our network, do sign up, and that's in chat now. Couple of announcements. Our Sustainable Kidney Care online learning module is live in English, Spanish, Italian, and Polish, French and Dutch coming soon. And it's recently been updated with all kidney cases from the vast library we have at CSH. It's part of the Kidney Care project and focuses on the bidirectional relationship between kidney care and climate change and the practical changes that can be made. So I encourage everybody to check that out when you get a chance. A little bit of housekeeping. Please remember to mute your mics if you're not presenting or speaking. No need for AI note takers. We do record and we'll post this. If we could save questions to the end, split into presentation and then good time for discussion at the end. And if people are comfortable to turn their cameras back on at the end of the presentation, it facilitates a better discussion. Lastly, if people do want to present, then please do reach out to me, and also reach out to me if you'd like a calendar invitation for these upcoming webinars. So that gives me now the pleasure to introduce our speaker today, Dr. Joachim Beige, MD, who is a nephrologist who specializes in kidney disease and hypertension at renal centers in Leipzig and Finsterwalde, Germany, where he is the medical director and chief physician. Dr. Beige also serves as an adjunct professor at the Martin Luther University, Halle-Wittenberg, and is the principal investigator in the Division of Nephrology at Klinikum St. George Hospital, Leipzig. Dr. Beige's research interests are dedicated to nephrology-related diseases and comorbid conditions. So, Dr. Beige, I will hand over to you. Feel free to screen share. Looking forward to this presentation. Oh, you're muted.
Thank you for the invitation. I'm proud to be with here right now, and I am trying to share some of our insights or results of a certain German benchmarking project in terms of carbon footprint of dialysis. Let me share the screen. I hope you can see it right now. Do you have this full presentation now?
Yes, that's perfect.
Yeah, that's perfect. So as you might know, that the main result of our investigation was that hemodialysis, I come to the details, it's 40% to the existing national carbon footprint per person. And how we did this, I will explain to you right now. First, my disclosures, there's nothing related. I have from some other research project grants from German authorities, as well as advisory fees from a few pharmaceutical companies, but as I said, not related to this project. Yes, and I'm practical doing nephrology in two centers, as you mentioned, in Leipzig and Finsterwalde, in Saxony and Brandenburg, where I'm as a kidney doctor practical underway, but at the same time I'm the medical director of the whole Kuratorium for Haemodialysis, KFH, organization with nearly 180 centers for Germany, and some of our results belong to this network. Although the venture of taking the carbon footprint was done not only in KFH centers, but in all German, also in a selection of all German renal centers, which are about 600 to 700 overall. We have nearly 20,000 dialysis patients in KFH and 300 dialysis kits. Some words of motivation doing this work. This is a Nature Sustainability manuscript from 2023, showing the difference in habitable regions of our planet between the 1.5 target in temperature increase and the scenario with 2.7 degrees difference. And as you see right here, there are several hundred millions of people affected if we do not reach, like it looks right now. Unfortunately, I must admit that we cannot reach the 1.5 target. So these gray shadowed regions here are awaited to be non-habitable and even worse. So people are going to be affected that do not contribute so much in terms of carbon footprint. So you see here people within the European Union, which are not so hardly climate affected with non-habitability as other regions of the world, but those type of regions contribute more to the global carbon footprint than people from those countries who do not contribute so much emissions. Therefore, we have to understand our responsibility. Within our network, we had several workshops deal with the issue. And first of all, there was a recognition of the fact that if the global healthcare sector, not only nephrology, but healthcare at all, would be a country, it would take the 5th place on Earth in terms of emissions and pollution. And maybe there are not so clear data, but within medicine, again, nephrology is at least one of the most intensive sectors because we are dealing with long-term patients, as everybody knows. Of course, this is a life-saving therapy. We have to do this. There's no discussion about this. But maybe if there are big numbers, so there could be scientific ways to deal with those numbers. This was a motivation I got from Bill Gates, who simply said, deal with everything making up more than 10% of your personal environment, CFP. And another translation of that saying is from those type of people here in South Africa, as many small people in many small places doing small things can change the face of the world. So this was the starting point for our investigation. And what did we started then is illustrated on the next, sorry, was a bit too early or too fast. On the next slide here, with the help of people from Green Tech Dialysis, which is a technical startup in the field of dialysis techniques, basically, we built a carbon calculator, primarily accessible via internet, not right now because of several technical issues. And with that calculator, following this URL here in the very bottom of the slide, centers were able to put in their structural data in terms of surface area, numbers of treatments per year, numbers of patients, numbers of machines, type of snacks and nutrition within the centers, distances of both patients and staff travel, and some other issues like numbers of computers, printers, and all those things of being related to emissions. We did this primarily at the starting point in 5 centers within Germany. 4 of those 5 were from the KFH network. And then we calculated following international benchmarks from the World Bank and so for the intensity, for instance, of electricity, for kilometers travel, the amount of carbon which is related to having such type of activity, and we normalized the results to the number of patients, and we came up with a certain number of CO2 emission per patient per year in those 5 centers. The largest one at the bottom is my own center in Leipzig, where we started already 2015 with the project. In the other countries, we started 2021 with an observation time of 3 years. And what you see here is the ton per patient per year, as I said, which developed over the years by certain measures, which we estimated as well. For instance, introduction of solar power in that center, change from single transport to group transport. As you see here, those drops here symbolized or symbolize changes of dialysate flow. And so you can see the development in the different centers under certain measures. And the very overall of the emission, taking all those 5 centers together, was 3.7 plus minus 0.4 ton per patient per year, which is roughly, as I said, 40 to 50% the emission amount of the average German citizen per year, which is in the range of 9 tons per year, not so very different from UK and France and our neighboring countries. So here is a small video, the video abstract of NDT. Hopefully you can follow this. I just try this. If not, it's not that catastrophic. Do you see the screen now of NDT?
No, it's still the
No.
carbon footprint.
Still be on the carbons. Just give me a second. Just go to the other screen while sharing. Okay. Now we must be on the NDT side, really? Are we? Do we? Do you see the NDT side now?
We're on the OUP site.
Yeah. Okay, that's
yes.
right. So then I started. I think you don't have an audio because I have problems with the audio right now, but you can see the text and the symbolization. I think you can follow it.
Targeting 50% reduction of greenhouse gases until 2045, targeting net zero thereafter. Pioneering studies have been published since 2010, showing greenhouse generation 9.9 carbon dioxide equivalent. We aim to establish a standardized method to be applied to German method. We counter resource consumption by standardized measures in the categories of power, heating and water consumption, material production and waste generation, transportation of patients and staff. Other data were collected via a database web portal. In 5 pilot haemodialysis centers with nearly 500 patients, we measured a carbon footprint between 3.2 and 5.1 tons per patient per year. All centers reduced their carbon footprint over the observation time by an average of 9%. Conclusions. Material production and waste generation, power consumption and transportation are the most important carbon footprint generators in haemodialysis clinics. Introducing solar energy, reducing water consumption by optimized dialysate flow, introducing group transportation and planetary diet can help to reduce the carbon reduction until 2045. Further measures like switching patients to resource-sparing peritoneal dialysis methods, intensified transplantation efforts, and prevention must be encompassed. Future development. To give kidney therapies a net zero carbon footprint, new techniques using miniaturized approaches, dialysate and material recycling are necessary innovation breakthroughs. Thank you, dear readers, for taking an interest in this work by a group of authors of German Society of Nephrology.
So unfortunately, you don't get the audio, but I think it was from the text below, it was accessible. And what we learned was which measures are the most important one if we want to go further to a reduction of 50% in 2030 to 40, following the international guidelines, and even more reduction in the years behind by miniaturization and so on. So hopefully I'm now back in my presentation. I should be.
Yep. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Then we sustained this work. So these were 5 centers, the pilot centers, and then we went further by integrating, so with the aim of all centers in Germany. So we were not able to catch everybody, but we caught 152 centers. Actually, this is yet unpublished data, but what you can see here, the 150 centers, again with the different categories of material and waste in green, power or electricity in orange, the very small footprint of raw water treatment and distribution, and quite large footprint of transportation of both patients and staff, as I said. So this was exactly the same average in the range of 3.7 tons per patient per year over those 152 centers. But as you can see here, there are some outliers, even though we already performed plausible controls. So there are centers doubling the average emissions, where everybody would have an opportunity to look what's going wrong in the center. So the tool is already working for benchmarking, if you like to do. And what is the international comparison? So most of you who are interested in that type of literature and knowledge may be aware of those data. So here are our data, the German ones, with again 3.7 per patient per year. So they are the UK data from the group of Connor. They started already in 2010. They were in the range of about 4 tons per patient per year, so quite comparable. And so the only outliers in that concern are from the States, mainly because they had another mix in their national electricity that is causing a much larger footprint in America. When it comes to home dialysis, there are obviously certain differences between hemo and peritoneal, that's for sure, and also between schemes using 5, 6, even 7 times per week, or only 3 or 4 times per week. So this is very important to differentiate. If we talk about home dialysis, obviously a hemo scheme with 6 times per week plus additional logistics is ecologically not the best idea. Medically it is. So there we have a certain dilemma between medical issues and ecological issues. Comparably, or other questions arose in Australia here, with very long distances, even for peritoneal dialysis manually, and the same, of course, automatically. So the Australian guys, they of course have problems with their long distances. So, but the bottom line here is that 4 to 5 ton per year under mostly European conditions or related, and in the range of 8 to 10 in the States because of another energy mix. So how can we go better? What is the most sensible use of resources? Can we halve the carbon footprint? Is there a way for reprocessing materials? What about waste? So that are questions we have to ask ourselves. Of course, logistics, and is there some development of dialysate processing, recycling, reprocessing? You know about kidney, neokidney and kidney X, all the type of stuff. I will show you some data, most related to our network. So this is a typical hemo session in in-center dialysis. We are so lucky that we have in the range of 90 to 98% recycling of packaging materials, obviously not of clinical materials, but we can recycle all the paper packaging and the plastic packaging. But we have obviously no clue in Germany for the clinical waste, so the tubing systems and the dialysis. So there is much more development in UK, as I heard of. I would be very interested during the discussion to learn about this, because in Germany we are right now in the state that we have to incinerate and burn the materials there, from a regulatory aspect. And we are just starting a project where we are testing with a technology-oriented consortium ways to disinfect and sterilize the clinical materials, speaking about tubing and dialyzers. So this is a microwave process here, but we are aiming to go more or less in the direction of a steaming disinfection. And after that type of disinfection, so we are in contact with the waste industry to have at least some side of downcycling those materials in terms of other technical products, not of dialysis yet. So we will not reach in the first stage the same level of material reprocessing with tubings and dialyzers, but with, for instance, flooring materials, type of that stuff. Second, within our 170 centers, we have already established in a range of 40 centers that type of solar roofs. So green energy. So this is the energy production of my own center here in Leipzig. We have during summer month nearly autarky, so we don't need to use a grid energy during sunny summer days. That's obviously different during winter, but over the year we have a range of 30 to 40% less energy consumption using that type of solar roofs, and at least in Germany. So we have very lot of that type of dialysis centers with those very well suited roofs, where even from an economical viewpoint, this is this type of no-brainer, because you don't need any energy storage. You can directly use the electricity from the roof for running your dialysis machines. There's not so much good news, at least right now, concerning the quantification of carbon footprint from the suppliers. That was a survey among our suppliers, and nobody was able to tell us how much carbon emission sticked into their products within a dialysis, for instance. What they were able to report was that they use certain types of certification, yes, but those are the green parts. But as you see here, not more than 30% of all suppliers were underway with those type of certified either logistic or production things. That must gonna be better, of course. Transport. So throughout Germany, we have a situation where normally the patient comes as a single patient transport within a taxi cab. Here in Saxony, in Leipzig, we are one of the very few regions where a group transportation is already in place with normally 3 patients per car. Here are the reduction possibilities as we learned from our calculator. As you can see, if we go to group transport, we could spare in the range of 0.15 tons per patient per year, with electrical transport in the range of 0.2. And even for the staff, there is some opportunity to go better if people use bicycles or public transport, which of course is not, how to say, so they are free to choose, of course. So big issue, dialysis flow. We learned that reducing the dialysis flow in the pilot centers from 500 mL per minute to 350 to 400 mL per minute, not in all patients, but individually in those are treated because, for instance, they had lower blood flows. They are not very large and heavy. So we recommended to the pilot centers, look at your patients and make an individualized decision together with the patients. And we came up with a reduced dialysis flow in the range of 70 to 80% of patients, and that were the savings, as you see here. So overall, this is calculated for the whole network centers. That means for 180 centers. If we would stimulate 180 centers in our network, then we would come up with 700 tons of CO2 per year. Not that much, I must admit, but again, if I have a person with 40 kilograms, 220 blood flow, I would not stick with 500 mL dialysis flow. And we checked not the full detoxification spectrum, but we looked for phosphate levels after that type of dialysate reduction. And there were lots of people that decreased their their phosphate levels, and only a few who increased. So this type of cartoon here gives you an impression, of course, that the phosphate levels are quite variable. Of course, they depend from nutrition and so on. So a single cross-sectional analysis might not be very useful to argue here at this point. But again, if you do this individually, if you look at your patients, I think there's not so much danger reducing the dialysis flow. What was very interesting for me, well, I learned a lot of is that approach to a planetary health type diet within the dialysate snacks or nutrition, if you like. So this is a typical picture before, so sort of rolls and breads with sausages and cheese and so on. And this was a type during dialysis. The fruits, of course, turned concerning potassium. And if you change only this type of conventional diet to a more or less vegetable diet, you can halve the emission from the dialysis. And that made up for one center already 4 tons for the whole center per year. And it was interesting to see that people took that stimulation for nutrition at home as well. So they said that's much better. Sometimes I feel even better. And some patients changed their nutrition based on that regime change within the dialysis unit. What we learned overall was what can we influence most is material, of course, and waste. So we cannot influence so much. We can do something with the dialysis flow, but of course we have to dialyze in a way. But the material is the thing we can influence most, and that was the reason to start that recycling project with the disinfection of the materials. And then we made sort of modelizing if we would use all available measures in all centers, changing to home dialysis, peritoneal home dialysis in 40% of patients, reducing of dialysate flow wherever possible, introducing solar energy in all centers, then we could reach at the very maximum 50% reduction. Using all that was again modeling, that was not that what we reached, but we could reach it if we would use all available methods, and there will not be more success than 50% reduction, and that's the reason that we have to consider other breakthroughs, if you want. So this is the disruption into the direction of net zero, and I have already set the keywords: miniaturization, dialysate, reprocessing, and even implantable artificial kidneys. Although this is science fiction at this point, it is in a sort of an outlook, but in the other way around. That's really true. My very first patient in 95 or 6 was that gentleman here who implemented by his own ready dialyzer into his Volkswagen small van or bus already in the 70s, yeah. And this gentleman was able to dialysate with dialysate reprocessing or recycling already during the 70s and 80s, and in a way that is a approach back to the future. And if he could do this, we should be able to do this as well. Yeah, it's just a remark that we must look for new technologies. So this is the end of my short report here and of our German experiences. Of course, I have to thank all my co-workers and the whole network, again, from Green Tech Dialysis, who did the calculator, and the colleagues from the center who delivered the data. Some organizational help from the German Society of Nephrology. I hope we can continue with such type of projects, and would be very keen to hear your impressions and maybe some own experiences. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Joachim. That was fantastic. We now move on to the discussion part of the webinar. If people are comfortable to turn their cameras back on, that would be great. It does facilitate a better discussion. And the floor is open to questions. Go ahead, Keith.
Hi, excellent initiative, Joachim. Thank you for bringing it to us. We've been working with the UK Kidney Association for some time, and indeed the co-chair of the Kidney Sustainability Committee.
Nice to meet you.
Hello. From Newcastle University, had us do a study with him, looking at the footprint of his unit. We used that information to create a calculator, but it's really good to see that you've got so much buy-in from other German renal units. What do you think about the idea of other territories, other countries' renal teams doing the similar sort of thing to what you've done and what we've done here in the UK? Do you see a lot of interest?
Yeah, as everybody, I'm presenting those data. I hear about this interest, and I really do think that one of the main issues is of standardizing the measurement, because you know, when you did this work before in UK, so there's so much variables which you cannot, so we cannot directly compare the UK data with the US data, with the Chinese data, with the whatsoever data. Yeah. And therefore, it would be very, very helpful to have those type, sort of in the beginning a sort of discussion what is true in that field. I mean, I do not admit that we have the perfect way to calculate, but we must together look for a standard. And if we could agree, then we should try to put the standard in place, yeah, and then we could try to begin to compare regions with countries with I don't know, healthcare systems whatsoever. That would be very helpful. So to be honest, the business with the calculator was not so easy. It was online for a certain time, but then we learned that there were some types of errors putting in the data. We had not at every field plausible thresholds and that type of stuff, so that in the very end it was a combination between online transmission via the website and transfer of Excel files. Yeah, so there's a lot of work to do in terms of establishing such a type of a really unified online calculator. So I think this is the next step to go. I was in contact already with Raymond von Hohler from the ECHA, for instance, and we would be very interested to approach such a procedure, or to go into that process of establishing a standardized common tool. Yeah.
A good answer, and yes, I agree entirely about the need for standardized methodology, and for perhaps that's something that can be taken up either through kidney care or at the ISN to look for a standard method that's accepted globally. Thank you.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you, Keith. Marta, I saw you had your hand up.
Yeah, can you listen to me?
Yes.
Yeah, I hear you. Well,
yeah, but I put it down because, well, first of all, excellent talk. I joined a bit later, but I was going to something maybe similar to Keith. That's the reason I put it down. But I take advantage, and I was going to ask, the cost of developing this web page was through your German Society of Nephrology, I understand.
Yeah. So the costs actually, so we had funding from the German Society. It was overall in the range of 25,000 euros.
Okay.
The company who did this for us was saying that it was not so very much, so they were enthusiastic as well, because there's lots of maintenance to do with those type of calculators, and so what I want to say, 20,000 was not very much. So, and this is the reason that the calculator at the moment is not online, because there is no maintenance money available right now. But again, there are lots of interest expressed to me, and via ISN or whatever body, it would really be helpful if we could enter a process of developing it. I do not think that it can be completely free of cost to the centers. I mean, you have to do this for a center once per year, yeah. And if you want to have your carbon footprint for dialysis, this is a certain value. I don't know whether it makes sense, or it's a way to go to reimburse the centers, yeah, to doing this calculation, because maybe participation may go down with that type of approach. But so I have no clear idea with that, to be honest. No.
Okay, because I quickly tried to enter because I got really enthusiastic with this.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to use the calculator right now, and so it's not available for everybody. I understand.
Yeah. So there is, as I included the internet address, you can approach the company. So they will come in contact with you. They are in general helpful, but I mean, I cannot say that today there's a completely free opportunity to put in data and so on. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Just as a follow-up to those two questions, I'm going to jump in, and it may be that Inga or Ijan wants to refine this question somewhat if I'm a bit clumsy asking it. But I'm interested in a comment on incentivizing centers to participate and any learnings about how best to approach that.
Yeah. So the fact that we got 150 centers during our first full year, if you want, was that it was a sort of enthusiastic beginning. So when when it goes on the road, so the interest flattens down a bit, yeah. And clearly, from my point of view, there has to be a sort of incentivation in terms of, I don't know, certification whatsoever. So in Germany and other countries, there are certification processes for dialysis centers. And I think we have to include sort of obligation to do this into that type of certification centers. But there's, of course, at least in Germany, not so much enthusiasm to have obligations to do this. On the other hand, I mean, you can do this for a center. Also, I tried it for my own. It's not more than 30 minutes, yeah, because there are lots of things are already pre-calculated. So you just to put in your number of treatments, your surface area, your consumption of energy and water. You have to look for the invoices from the companies providing the media. It's not so much work. It's 30 minutes per year, yeah, and therefore I think it's one can discuss to make an obligation out of those 30 minutes, but we have to have this on the level of the societies. I don't know, the ERA, or maybe the ISN and the national societies. It's not on the German stage politically at the moment right now, because there are discussions. Have we this kind of data? Yeah, we have to promote it on the levels of the international societies, I think. Yeah.
Thank you. Inga.
Hi, Joachim.
Hello.
We are working on a benchmarking tool at the moment for kidney care. So we're doing something quite similar to you, but we are looking at peritoneal dialysis, transplantation, and conservative therapy, and also health outcomes and costs. So we are also very much interested how we can keep that tool alive going forward. But I was just wondering, with your tool, when the sites have used it, could they compare themselves with others? Could they see the others' data, or it was very much their own data they saw?
So the 150 centers are going to be presented within the upcoming German Congress of Nephrology in October. So they have never seen the other centers right now. The 5 pilot centers, of course, the very core group, they were aware of each other's data, yeah, and they knew who is the other one. But anonymization between the 150 is one of the key points, because we do not want that somebody says, oh, this guy is bad and we are good, and so this is not the mechanism we want to implement. And so we will have, so the goal is to have some anonymized benchmarking, so you can see yourself, you can identify among 150, but you cannot identify who the guy with the 10 tons is. So another thing concerning your very interesting for peritoneal and transplantation, because our data, maybe I was not fully clear about this, our hemo data. So we even, we included the peritoneal thing, not the materials, but if we have a center caring for, I don't know, 15 peritoneal patients, within the surface of a hemo center, then the needed surface for the peritoneal was included in the hemos. Of course, we excluded materials for peritoneal, that's for sure. But it would be very, very helpful to have full peritoneal and transplant data, because that would make the chain fully visible or accessible. Then you could compare directly between PD and transplant and hemo if we would have certain categories of care. Yeah. But actually, at least with Green Tech, we don't have processes for peritoneal dialysis and not for transplantation. Transplantation is quite difficult, I think, in terms of medication, laboratory analysis, and so on. So that's completely completely different. Peritoneal, yeah, for peritoneal, the distances are very important, the logistics. Yeah.
Thanks, Inga. Time possibly for one final question, comment. Elaine. Oh, you're muted still.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I am not a nephrologist. I'm actually a pediatrician from Canada. I'm not actually sure how I got invited to these sessions, but anyway, something to do with Dr. Al-Nurani, I believe. But anyway, obviously, it's very difficult to reduce the carbon footprint of dialysis. I mean that, and you know, in a world where we need to get to 100% emissions free, right? You can argue about the time frame for that, but that's where we need to head. I mean, I come from the young end of life here, whereas many of the dialysis patients, I'm sure, are kind of middle-aged and older. But does the issue of preventing kidney disease or preventing the progression of kidney disease to end-stage kidney failure, how does that factor into your thinking in terms of reducing the carbon footprints of dialysis programs? Because the less patients you have needing dialysis, the less will be the overall carbon footprint, whatever it might be per patient.
Yeah, absolutely important. So, I mean, to apologize or to explain it, that was a type of a technical hemo paper, not so much dealing technically. I mean, that's for sure. But if we know we have now 3.7 or 5 tons per year, and if we know that we have a reduction of progression by in a range of, I don't know, 40-50% with all the medication available, you can calculate the reduction of the CO2. And there's even one paper calculating the emission of the medication for the progression drugs. And this is in the range of a few hundred kilos, 1 to 200 kilos per year versus 4 tons per year. And therefore you can simply say every saved year of kidney function saves in the range of 4 tons. Yeah, same or comparably with transplantation. Maybe transplantation is a bit higher because immunosuppression needs more emission and so on. So, but that's the same way of thinking. If we have the emission from the dialysis, we can simply say avoiding dialysis is of course the best method to get the carbon footprint down. That's for sure. Yeah, and I write it and say it in all statement papers, but that was not part of the technical paper.
WHO.
Okay.
That's great. Thank you, Joachim. Elaine, did that answer your question? Take the silence as yes.
Yeah.
Which brings us to time. So just want to thank Joachim Beige again for a fantastic presentation, for joining us.
Thank you. It was a joy being with you. Yeah.
And